Today's daf is daf tes, and we're talking about a case as the Gemara describes it on daf ches amid beis. How gaved avimaz when he was selling chumrei pischayos. These are small objects that they connect all of these objects with a string. And there are like beads that a woman would wear around her neck. Asoi hahi isisa. She comes over to the seller. The Amrle, she says to the seller, Havli chad shocha. Give me one of those beads, one of those necklaces. Hamallah. You want it for free? There's no freebie today. Would you agree to marry me? And this will be Kesef Kiddushin. Amalei hava mahava. Tainli. Amar Rav Chama, kol hava mehavna lav klumu. When a woman repeats the words tain twice, and she says tainli, she means that she's not interested in Kiddushin. Give me. Hahu gavra, like we have in the following story, the hava shasi chamer v'chanusa. He was drinking wine in a wine store. Please give me a cup of wine. The man said, would you marry me? Give it to me. Hashke. Third case. A person was cutting down dates from a date tree. And a woman comes along, and she says to him, Shade li tarte, cut off 2 dates for me. Omar Allah, Ishadina lech mikachesli, will you marry me for these 2 dates? Omar Allah, she responds, Shadi mishte, zrokli. Omar Rav Zvid, Kol shdei mishtei, zrokli, lav klum. In all these cases, the Kiddushin is not valid. This is not a lashon of what we call hisratzus lis kadesh. And give it to me. Fork it over. Now the Gemara wants to know, is it because she used a double language? Iboilahu. Hav, ashke, shedi mal. What if she only says it once? 10. Be mashkemi. Or give me, throw me one of the Tomorrow. Amar Avina Mekudeshes, according to Avina. In this case, since she didn't repeat 10, she means to accept the Kiddushin. Rav Sama Barak, so Amar, he disagrees. Taga de Malka, I take a shvua by the throne, or shall I say the, what's it called, the crown. Oh yeah, by the crown of the king, Eina Mekudeshes. She did not indicate that she wants to marry him. She's just saying, give it to me. The Hilchas Eina Mekudeshes, and we pass like Rav Sama, it's not Kiddushin, even though she didn't repeat it twice. Now, once the Gemara brings Hilchas on this last machlokas, the Gemara goes back to many other machlokas and paskins. Hilchas Ashirai lo tzrichi shuma. We're going to paskin like Rabbah that if a man is mekadosh an isha with clothing, with like silk garments, we don't have to evaluate the silk garments before she accepted the Kiddushin. Against Rav Yosef, who had a derivation from Shava Kesef to Kesef, Ma Kesef, Kotzuv, Af, Shava Kesef Kotzuv. And therefore you need Shuv. But we're going to paskin like Rabbah, you don't need Shuv. However, the poskim say that we should be machmir like Rav Yosef, and therefore when a man marries a woman with a ring, a tabas, it should not be a super duper expensive tabas with a diamond ring, because she may not really understand or accept that it's worth so much. Now we get to another machlokas. What about a man who says to a woman is kachili b'mana? Mana equals 100 dinar, and he only gave her 1 dinar. Hilchasa Rabbi Elazar. We're going to pass like Rabbi Elazar that she's married with that one dinar, bitnai, in the condition that he, the Makadesh, will fit in the balance and he will pay up to another 99 dinar. The Hilchasa Karavam Rav Nachman, when a man says his Kadshi Libim Mana, and instead of giving on the money, gives a pikadon, we're going to accept the principle of Rava, Mana Ein Kan, Mashkon Ein Kan, and therefore the Kiddushin is not valid. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Brisa, Bishtar Ketzad. Now, the first question that we want to ask is whether a star has a value to it on the market. After all, it's written on parchment. So if you take a look at Rashi at the beginning of Masechet Kiddushin on Daf Beis, the Dibra Maskil is Bekesef Ubeshtar, which is 4 lines down from the top. Rashi implies a question. Why do I need shtar as a separate method of Kiddushin? Every shtar has a value to it, and therefore comes as a subcategory of kesef. It's shava kesef. So Rashi answers, if you take a look at the end of the Rashi, it's about 8 lines down from the top of the Amud. Afal pi kosev lal niyar, afal pi she'eno shava pruta. The niyar on which the document on which the shtar was written, the shtar Kiddushin, is not even worth a pruta, and therefore cannot serve as kesef Kiddushin. And that's what we have. Rashi got it from our brisa here on Daf Tes. Kosav la ala niyar or ala cheres afal pi she'ein bo shava pruta. The niyar or the cheres, the piece of pottery on which the shtar was written, is not even worth a pruta. And if he writes bitcha mekudeshesli, bitcha muresesli, bitcha lila into harezu mekudeshes. So this is a case of kiddushay ktana or nara al yidei aviyah, and he writes in the shtar bitcha mekudeshes. Maskif la Rav Zera bar Mamol holodomi hay shtar l'shtar zvini. Okay. Rabbi, we get into a very lumdish sugya now. My introduction to this sugya, if we had a whiteboard, is the difference between das kone and das makne. And the Mishnah at the beginning of the Masechta says, Isha niknes. Niknes means that someone is kona her. And that person, as we call him the Makadesh, is the das kona. She, on the other hand, is the das mak. Now, we have a rule in shtaros that a shtar has to be written by the makne. So if I'm selling you a piece of property, I'm the mocher, you're the lokeach, I have to write the shtar. That's called a das makne. In the case of a shtar kiddushin, she is the das makne, but she doesn't write the shtar. Who writes the shtar? The kone writes the shtar. Maskif lo Rav Zera bar Mamol holo domi hay shtar l'shtar zvini. I don't understand how shtar works by kiddushin. Our paradigm case of shtar is a shtar zvini, a shtar mecher, which is referring to karka because he can't sell metaltul with a shtar. Ha-mocher kosev lo, the mocher who's the makne writes the shtar sadai mechura lecha. So the shtar mecher is written by the das makne. But here in the case of a shtar kiddushin, bal kosev bitcha mikudeshesli. What's going on? The Av, the father, is the makne. He should be the das makne to write the shtar, and yet the brisa says bitcha mikudeshesli, which means that the kone is writing the shtar. The Makadesh is writing the shtar. And that's, of course, true not only in the case of Kiddushay Ketana, but also in the case of a Kiddushin Gdola, that it is the Baal who writes the shtar, and he is the Das Kohen, in contrast to the case of Mechira. Whereas in the case of Mechira, it is the Machnu who writes the shtar, the Mocher writes the shtar, not the Kohen. These two shtaros are derived from two different psukim, and we have to understand the meaning and the context of each pasuk. Chasam, in terms of a shtar mecher, we have a pasuk in Parshas Bahar. Umachar me'achuzaso, and all the emphasis is on the mocher who's selling his karka, but mocher tolerachmona, and therefore he's going to write the shtar. But hoch, in the case of Kiddushin, ksiv ki yikach ish isha. All the focus on the active agent is on the Mekadesh. And therefore, Bebal Tolerachmana, he's going to write the shtar. Frek the Gemara, I don't get it. Hosam Nami, Ksiv, in Yirmiyahu, with regard to the Mechira Saros Bakesev Yiknu. So the emphasis in the Pasuk is on the Kone, on the Lokeach, not on the Mocher. And the Gemara says it depends how you vocalize, how you put the vowels under the word Yiknu. Instead of reading it as Kari Be Yiknu, you should read it as under the Yud, put a Pasach instead of a Chirik. Yaknu. And Yaknu is referring to the Makne, to the Mocher. So the Gemara asks, Umay Taima Koris Be Yaknu? Our Masorah, because all the vowels are in Masorah, is Yiknu. And why do you prefer to read it as Yaknu? Mishum Dichsiv, in another pasuk, which we quoted earlier, it says, Soros Bakesef Yik. It says, Umachar Me'achuzasa. It's Hochinami Korbe Ki. Oh, so now the Gemara asks, wait a second, you're not paying fair game over here. You had a point that in Kiddushin, all the Torah's emphasis is on Ki Yikach, on the Baal, because you put a chirik under the Yud of Yikach and a Pasach under the Kuf. Why not read it Kri Be, Kari Be, Kiyakiach? Yakiach is what's called Lashon Hifil. I'm reminding myself what I learned in 5th grade. So therefore, we're going to put a Pasach under the Yud instead of a Chiriki Yakiach. And Yakiach is the Makne. And therefore, the father who's being Makne his daughter by being Mekadesh his daughter Zakatana, he should be the one to write a shtar. So now we're in a quandary. We're in a bind. From the psukim, as Rava wanted to suggest earlier, we cannot derive any definite conclusions about who should write the shtar. We have Allah Moshe Sinai. The Rabbanan found the smichus hakroy ibois aim, another answer. Hasam nami ksiv va'ekach es sefer ha mikna. Mikna means shtar mecher. So we see explicitly that Yirmiyahu Navi is talking about taking a shtar mecher from the hands of Hanamel, who is the mocher. But in Kiddushin, when it says ki yikach, it's the Baal who's writing the shtar. The Omar Rav Nachman, Kosav lo the Mekadesh, wrote to the father of the Ketana, Alanir lacheres afal pishain b'shav pruta, bitcho mekudeshesli, bitcho buresesli, bitcho lilintu, bein al yidei avia, bein al yidei atzma. Mekudeshes. not only if the father receives the shtar Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter, but even if the bas herself receives the shtar Kiddushin, that's also going to be valid Kiddushin, but it's got to be midaita. We have to have the consent of her father. That's only because she's a Nara. Vehu shalo bagra, but once she becomes a bogeres, 6 months after she exhibited simone narus, then she leaves the rishus of her father, and we don't need his das. We only need her das. Rava continues. Mekudeshes bein al yedei avia, bein al yedei atzma, midaita. We have to add v'hushe bagra. Why do we require midaita? And it's not enough that we have the das of the father because she's already bogeres. And it seems like the chiddush of Rava is that the father could accept the shtar Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter, but now we're talking about a bogeres. So we have to assume that she agreed that her father should serve as a shliach Kabbalah on her behalf. Boy, Reb Shimon Lakish, shtar erisin sheksavo shelo lishma mahu. Does the shtar Kiddushin require lishma? What's the suffix? The Gemara is going to now analyze the suffix. We know that a shtar gerushin has to be written lishma, otherwise it's not worth anything. Again, we're going according to Rabbi Lazar, who holds Edi Masira Karsei, and therefore the get itself has to be written lishma. Or according to Rabbi Meir, Edi Chasima Karsei, and the Chasima has to be lishma. Havayos li'yitzios makshina. We have a hekesh between marriage, which is called havaya, and gerushin, which is called yitzia, because the pasuk says v'yotza v'holcha li'ish acher. And now we're going to make an equation between the shtar of erisin, which means the shtar of havaya, to the shtar of yitzia of gerushin, and they both require lishma.